With Universe 6 down to its last remaining fighters, Goku finds himself in battle once more as he engages against both Kael and Caulifla, with Goku seemingly teaching the Saiyans on further unlocking their potential, all while unknowingly he finds himself face to face with an opponent he never saw coming, the combined fusion of both Kael and Caulifla, as we are introduced to the new Super Warrior, and her name is Kafla. What is going on, Dragon Ball fans? Welcome to my Dragon Ball Super episode 114 review entitled Intimidating Passion, the Birth of a New Super Warrior, leading into next week's exciting episode of Dragon Ball Super episode 115, which of course we will get to see the fusion in action, as we are going to discuss more or less everything about that in this video. Of course, again, I do want to say, if you guys are new to this channel, don't forget to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and enable all notifications by clicking that bell icon. That way you guys can be notified whenever a new video is posted onto this channel in connection to news, information, updates, and discussions. Hashtag notification squad, as Dragon Ball Super introduces the overall concept of Goku bringing back Super Saiyan God once again following his fight with Jiren during Dragon Ball Super episode 109, as we got to see some very interesting development from this episode, as Dragon Ball Super episode 114 kicks off exactly where we left off, with Kael having to transform into her berserker form. And I will say the animation was absolutely fantastic. If anything, some of the best I've seen in the Tournament of Power, as Kael begins to transform into her berserker form and she literally shakes everything. Even Goku is very concerned the minute she does this, and I really love the appeal to Kael because she reminds me so much of Broly as she is transforming in this specific scene, to the point where even after she's done transforming, we get to see how Jiren is sitting down meditating, and then all of a sudden we see how his hands begin to move. So I'm pretty sure, based on what Kael had done, it garnered Jiren's attention just a tad bit, as we also get to see finally Vegeta and Toppo engage in a word of exchange, as Toppo and Vegeta sense Kael's power, with Vegeta taking the chance to bang out Toppo as soon as he dropped his guard momentarily and knocking him into the pillar, which I found to be very ironic. But I don't think this is going to be the last that we see of Toppo and Vegeta. Even though I wanted to see more from them, we get to see how Kael is in this berserker-like form, and we see how Caulifla comes on over in trying to bring her down to her senses in order for her to regain who she is. And we see how Kael, at least at first, doesn't seem to understand who Caulifla is, as Caulifla's trying to bring her and calm her down to her senses and trying to understand who she is and why she's here. And we see how, Caulifla even says, "Just want you to accept that you're my protege," in which eventually, as they hold hands, we see how Kael dies down and reverting back into her controlled form, which I think, at least in my opinion, it's something that I didn't want to see. I wanted to see the crazy berserker Kael, even though she does have control over this specific power now. To me, at least, I wanted to see the full-blown rage Kael actually be replaced instead of this controlled form. But either way, we get to see how Super Saiyan 2 Goku collides against Kael and Caulifla, as Kael, interestingly enough, she grabs onto Caulifla and she throws her into Goku first. Now, these girls, if anything, you gotta give them props for working very, very well as a cohesive unit, because every single time Caulifla was about to attack Goku, he stops momentarily only for Kael to punch him, and vice versa. And what I really enjoyed about this episode most was how we got to see the solar flare actually be used, to the point where Caulifla was actually blinded momentarily, in which caused Goku to kick Caulifla into the rocks, in which prompted Goku to fight Kael once again, as he did remember their previous encounter during Dragon Ball Super episode 100, as this entire time we see how Frieza is standing over pretty much watching Goku fight. And what I loved about this is how Frieza is shooting out these death beams at Dispo, he's shooting out these death beams at some of the Universe 3 warriors, and I've always said it since day one, ever since they brought him back, ever since he was a part of this tournament, Frieza needs to be more involved in trying to fight high caliber fighters. I really wouldn't mind to see Dispo fight Frieza, or perhaps maybe, even the fusion of Kefra, in which we do understand happens, but early on, as one of the Universe 3 fighters is about to attack Frieza, they are momentarily interrupted by Kael pushing Goku, in which one of the scenes that I loved most was seeing Kael and Caulifla regroup as Goku is staring them down, and Frieza having to introduce himself as Caulifla recognizes Frieza as the one who knocked out Kaba, and Frieza wants to fight Caulifla and Kael himself in saying Saiyans are fit to be toys. And Caulifla is actually about to attack Frieza, which I really enjoyed, because just as she's about to attack Frieza, we see how Frieza is about to unleash the same death ball that he used on Namek, and just as quickly as he was about to do it, Goku showed up and grabbing his hand and telling him, no, don't do it, because you have to consider Caulifla's temper alongside Frieza. If those two were to clash, that would have been a bloodbath for sure, but either way, Goku is the one that promptly, interrupted Frieza in trying to stop him from further damaging Kael and Caulifla, in which there was one specific moment, only a single solitary second, where Frieza was holding out his finger, seemingly enough as if he was about to hit Goku, as Goku says, I know what you're up to, don't even think about it. So just as Goku takes off to go fight with the girls again, we see how one of the Universe 3 warriors transforms. Now, his belt was really, really weird, and he was running in place, and he had like a massive S on his chest, sort of like, you would assume like he just transformed into like this super high-speed Power Ranger, and Frieza wasn't even once concerned, as all of a sudden he disappeared, and he looks down and he's observing Goku fight the girls. Now, I love the overall idea of Frieza having to oversee Goku fighting other Saiyans as well, because Frieza had never seen, Saiyans fight Saiyans before, especially like this, in which, of course, as Goku begins to fight them, it looks like the girls are very, very good when it comes down to working as a cohesive unit, because as Goku's about to strike Kael grabs his arm in the attempts of executing their plan, and as Kael is holding Goku, Caulifla is just beating Goku up, punching him in the gut, punching him in the face, and Goku as a Super Saiyan 2 is struggling, because keep in mind, he's also trying to recuperate and regain his stamina. And again, I loved, especially if anything, the beginning of this episode, because at least we got to see Jiren move momentarily, and of course these girls having to prompt Goku and using instant transmission, and even to the point where there was one thing where I completely disagreed with, and that was Goku having to use instant transmission, and Caulifla was able to pick up exactly where he was gonna go, which to me, that didn't really make sense as to how she knew where Goku was gonna be, but to the girls' credit, they did end up pushing Goku and using Super Saiyan God, a form that we haven't seen since Goku used it against Jiren in Dragon Ball Super Episode 109, and Beerus is mad at Goku for insisting on fighting alone rather than teaming up with Frieza, because keep in mind, Frieza wants to jump in, and they seem to have somewhat of a disagreement and argument about who's gonna fight these girls mostly. Of course, it's Goku, because Goku wants to pretty much enhance them as warriors as well, but even as Goku transforms into a Super Saiyan God, he calls Kael and Caulifla a good combination, and we see how even Shin is impressed that he can do this despite not being in top physical shape, and Goku begins to stick his hand out in the form of like the Bullet Club, for any wrestling fans out there that might get the notion, and he was firing off beams in the form of like a gun, and I loved how Super Saiyan God Goku punched Caulifla. She was really hurt, and the one thing that really disappointed me, however, was seeing how Super Saiyan God at first, it looked like Goku was gaining the upper hand, but ultimately enough, it was Kael who managed to blast Goku away, and I really did not agree with the concept of them even surviving Super Saiyan God, because remember back in Battle of Gods, how significant Super Saiyan God was? I felt, in my opinion, as I was watching this, that Super Saiyan God should have been enough to literally just one-shot these girls, especially considering that they're not using the enraged Kael version. I specifically feel as if Super Saiyan God should have easily one-shotted the girls, and it was pretty cool to see how Goku was standing there waiting for the girls to attack as they unleashed energy blasts from different sides, and Goku having to shoot off energy blast of his own, in which ultimately stopped them from using their attacks. And I really loved how Goku was controlling this one energy-like attack as he was moving his hand, and despite where Caulifla was gonna go, the attack ultimately hit her. And after she was hit by the attack, very similar to how we saw Caulifla grab Kael when Jiren pretty much neutralized her, we saw a similar occurrence happen here with Kael having to pick up on Caulifla, and Kael is looking up at Goku and she is very, very angry. And Shin and Old Kai are impressed with Goku surpassing his own limits in the idea that he's in a different class than even the female Saiyans, and although I feel towards the end of this should have ultimately been Goku's win, the only person that seemingly enough was standing up after this was in fact Kael, and we get to see how Caulifla is very damaged, but she doesn't revert back to any other previous state as they talk about their secret technique. Now Goku, while all this is happening, notices that they're right by the edge, and not caring anymore, Goku is about to unleash his Kamehameha, and as he finally unleashes his Kamehameha, something happens to the girls. Now keep in mind, all of this while this is happening, Champa is observing, and out of nowhere we see how Beerus is happy. Everyone's like, yeah, they finally got wrung out, and Goku notices that there's something with these girls that sparks a massive glow. The Omni Kings catch attention, everyone's catching their attention, and Champa, he smiles at this because a giant piece of the rock that Goku had just destroyed, we see how this warrior emerges and just whizzes right past Goku as the giant piece of rock was going out in the void, and lo and behold, we have the brand new fusion of Kafla. Now at first Goku, he was kind of like angry at this because I love the idea that Kael and Caulifla make this fusion, but it looks like Goku is blown away that there is an actual fusion in this tournament. And I will say again, the animation made everything so much better. I mean, there were certain portions that were kind of wonky, but whoever animated this did a fantastic job in depicting something that was really, really well crafted. And the idea that we also had a similar flashback to how we saw Frost, have his meeting with Champa, and Champa having to teach the girls about fusion and giving them the earrings. So even prior to this entire tournament even starting, Champa was the one that gave the girls earrings in having to, tell them about fusion, in which we all basically already know that that's what Champa did. And I personally enjoy how Champa so far for his own universe has been helping his team, encouraging Frost, giving earrings to the girls. You can only imagine as to what they're going to do with the Namekians, hopefully enough. But Kaba is even there and he's observing this as Kafla stares down at Goku. Now keep in mind, we understand that this warrior is going to be strong. Why? Because she begins to also power up very similarly to how Jiren powered up. And the reason why I say that is because at first there was no aura, all we saw was wind, and she shook the entire arena. Even Goku, you can clearly go back and see it, he was so surprised that, she was able to do this. Now, what I really loved about this was the fact that as Vegeta was fighting Toppo, he stopped momentarily. He stopped momentarily just to feel the power of Kafla. And as he did that, of course, Toppo took advantage in punching him out in the dust, and Frieza is overlooking this, and he is just standing there in the shadows all around him. I think ultimately Frieza should be the one that should ultimately put this fusion girl down, but she is so fast that she whizzes right past Goku, and Goku wasn't able to even register as to what she had done in her base form. So in her base form as a fusion, she was able to hold her own against Super Saiyan God Goku. And as she punched him in the face, that was such a crucial moment because we understand that Goku right now, even though he is weakened, is being taken advantage of by this girl in her base form just by simply punching him in the face. So, but in the end, I would like to know what you guys have to say down in the comment section below. What did you guys think of the fight between Kael and Goku? What are your overall thoughts on Caulifla's interaction with Goku as well? What are your overall thoughts on the interaction with Frieza? And of course, the return of Super Saiyan God. What are your initial thoughts on this superpower, this new warrior known as Kafla. How strong is she going to be as we further our way in the tournament? Again, I do also want to say, guys, I will be live streaming later on tonight, so if you guys want to go ahead and join, simply hop on in so we can go ahead and talk some Dragon Ball together. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to go ahead and smash that subscribe button, turn on all notifications, that way you guys can be notified whenever a brand new video hits your sub box. Tune back in for more. Again, we are going to discuss more or less the overall predictions for next week's episode, alongside also the breakdown for the preview. So thank you all so much for watching. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section, guys. Have a great night. Peace.